So, hello and a warm welcome for today's Artemis II Crew Media event at Airbus here in Bremen. My name is Ralf Heinrich and I'm with Airbus External Communications. As we look ahead to the Artemis II mission in 2024, we have had a preparation meeting with representatives of NASA, ESA and Airbus here in Bremen this week. Special guests were the NASA Artemis II astronauts. And what can I say? Now they are here to meet you here in the room, and this is really awesome and exciting. Allow me some organizational remarks and housekeepings. Speakers on the stage are Howard Hoon, Orion Program Manager, NASA. We have Philippe Delou, Orion ESM Program Manager at ESA. We have Reid Wiseman, Artemis II Commander, NASA. We have Victor Glover, Artemis II Pilot, NASA, and we have Christina Koch. I trained it too much. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Mission Specialist, NASA, and Jeremy Hansen, Artemis II Mission Specialist at Kennedy Space Agency. And last but not least, Mark Steckling, Head of Exploration at Airbus and Head of Site in Bremen. We have more experts for interviews after the official part, which is streamed at YouTube at our Airbus channel. We have Philipp Berthe here sitting in the front row, Orion ESM Project Coordinator, ESA. We have Debbie Cord, Orion Deputy Program Manager. We have Brunel Rodriguez, Orion Manager for Program Integration. We have Carlos Garcia Galan, Manager ESM Integration Office. Dario Zaire, hi, come to the first row, please. Orion ESM Program Manager at Thales. And we have Ralf Zimmermann, Orion ESM Program Manager. The schedule of the event is as planned. We have a short introduction by the speakers for a couple of minutes. Then we have roughly 40 minutes of Q&A. This session will be streamlined live. Then we have the gaggle interviews with the Artemis II crew in our viewing gallery, which is in the next building. And the one-on-one interviews with all the other speakers and experts are here in the room. You have received your schedule for the interviews. If you have further questions, ask us or the supporting team. For the gaggle interviews, we have to meet at the entrance at the back of the room, and then you will be guided to the viewing gallery in the first floor next building. The conference language is English, and this is an on-the-records briefing. Material about the Artemis and Orion mission is available at nasa.gov and esa.int, and images and videos of today with the astronauts in the clean room will be available latest at 3 o'clock at airbus.com/OrionESM. Background is we are in the preparation period for the installation of the ESM-3 main engine, and we do not want to disturb any operations in the clean room. Yes, that's it. Now let's get started, and Mark, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ralf. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, good morning and a warm welcome here at the Airbus Defence and Space site in Bremen. I would say the home of the European Service Module, the site where the European Service Module is designed and built. My name is Mark Steckling. I'm the Head of Earth Observation Science and Space Exploration of Airbus Defence and Space, and I'm also the Head of Site at Bremen. And if you look outside, you can see the sun is shining, which is not happening so often in Bremen. So we have really tried to show us from our sunny side. I'm also happy to welcome our partners, certainly the European Space Agency, which is our primary customer, but of course also NASA, which is leading that fantastic Artemis program. I also would like to welcome the media representatives. It is nice having you here. It is nice that you're taking the time in order to highlight, I would say, the most fantastic things we are doing in space exploration here at the site. Behind every success, there's always a story. And our story is about collaboration, and it is about teamwork. There's a proverb saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And this pretty much describes, I would say, the work we are doing on the European Service Module. The European Service Module has been built by more than 3,000 employees of Airbus Defence and Space and more than 60 other companies across Europe in 10 states of Europe. Of course, we also collaborate with Lockheed Martin in the US, who is the prime contractor of the Orion spacecraft, and certainly also with NASA. With the Artemis program, first time ever, Europe is contributing with a mission-critical element to such a fantastic mission, human-manned spaceflight mission of NASA. And this is exceptional, and this is unusual, but I think this also has a reason. And one of the reasons is the more than 60 years heritage we are having here on the Bremen site, and actually we celebrated our 61st anniversary last year, with the really fantastic missions that probably you know, which is Columbus, which is Space Lab, which is the automated transfer vehicle, which is the European Service Module, and hopefully very soon the next generation of space stations. So really cool things. The European Service Module is the module that is an integral part of the Orion spacecraft. As you know, the Orion spacecraft is consisting of 3 elements: the crew module that is hosting the 4 astronauts, then we have the crew module adapter, and then we have the European Service Module. The European Service Module is the element that propels our astronauts to the moon and brings them safely back. Likewise, it provides power, oxygen, and water, and certainly it also regulates the temperatures on board the spacecraft. To date, Airbus is contracted with 6 ESMs. We have just a couple of weeks ago submitted a proposal for the next 3, so ESM 7 to 9. ESM 1, as you know, has been flown on Artemis I. ESM 2 is at the Kennedy Space Center. ESM 3, 4, 5, and 6 are in our clean rooms that you have seen. And we are now switching from, I would say, project mode into a kind of serial production mode in order to produce 1 ESM per year, which I think is extraordinary and exceptional for a spacecraft of that size and complexity. This morning we had the honor and pleasure to have a special group of guests in our clean rooms, the crew of Artemis II, and this really makes us proud. And I really would like to use the opportunity to say a few personal words to the 4 astronauts. To say you, it is a great honor and pleasure to have you here at the site of Bremen. And it is not only because such a moment is maybe coming once in a lifetime. It is not only because you are our customer, but it is because you're giving us the feeling and the impression that Europe, that Airbus is an important part of the Artemis program and that we are part of the Artemis family. And certainly this makes us proud. As said before, the ESM is, it is first time that such a module is provided from Europe, from Airbus, because it is a mission-critical element. So your lives also depend on that. This, of course, makes us proud, but we are certainly also very much aware of, in terms of your expectations and the trust you're putting in us. So I can tell you, being responsible for Space Systems Germany, for the overall space exploration and Earth observation perimeter in Airbus, that my team and I, and the team is large and big, will do everything in order to make the Artemis program a success, and specifically your mission. A big thank you again for being here, and I hope you're leaving today or tomorrow in Bremen with the feeling that you're in good hands at Airbus Defence and Space. Thank you so much, and I hand over to you, Howard.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Howard Hugh. I'm the NASA Orion Program Manager. I'm very happy to be here. I want to thank first Airbus for hosting us today, and thank for the crew for showing up. Get an opportunity to see not only the facility, but engage with the people that are building a very important part of our spacecraft. You know, we've had over 10 years partnership with the European Space Agency, with Airbus, and of course Lockheed, our prime contractor, working together to build 1 spacecraft that are taking our crew to the moon and back safely. And it's been a tremendous partnership. I couldn't imagine a better team of experts that we've been working with to produce this incredible spacecraft. And of course, we proved it on Artemis I together. We did not fly the crew, but our successful 2.2 million kilometer record-setting flight to the moon and back, 25.5 days, working together, demonstrating that not only the crew module, but the service module working together as one spacecraft to go to the moon and come back safely. And you know, Artemis I and Artemis II is just a start. The Artemis campaign is very important to all of humanity from an exploration perspective. You know, we are just providing the foundation, the transportation foundation for that important campaign. And there's more things that are going on besides Orion, and we're going to press forward with not only the Gateway program, with our landers, but getting people on the surface of the moon and doing exploration and doing the important science that we're going to be needing to do as we explore our solar system. So this is just a very start of a wonderful collaboration, very important collaboration with our European partners. I thoroughly enjoy our time together, and I know that Artemis I's success will leapfrog us to more successes going forward. And of course, I look forward to our Artemis II mission. We will have a lot of important work that we get to do on Artemis II to better and further refine the spacecraft. And we'll return to crew safely, and we will go on and do Artemis 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Harold.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Philippe Delot, and I'm the manager for the European Space Agency of the European Service Module. And I would like to say that I'm very honored to be here on this podium, and in particular, I feel privileged to sit next to the crew, the Artemis II crew, who will be the first human to go back to the moon since the Apollo program 50 years ago. So they will ride the Orion module. The Orion module is the results of a partnership, a very successful partnership we have over the last 10 years or even more with NASA. This service module provides the power and is the powerhouse of the vehicle, and is very important. Last year there was a very successful Artemis I mission, and the service module just performed flawlessly and even exceeded our expectation in terms of performance in a number of areas. So that gives us confidence that, or increase further our confidence that the vehicle will be safe for the crew to go to the moon and back in the future mission coming. But also is an example of the quality of the European engineering. Now, the Artemis II mission will be less demanding to the crew module, especially from the propulsion side, than the Artemis I mission. In the Artemis I mission, we wanted really to stress the vehicle. Here, the objective is more oriented towards the life of the crew in the capsule, and not so much about the performance of the service module. However, there will be a few systems which will be tested for the first time, and these are the crew consumables subsystem which were not active or not installed on Artemis I. Another point is the Artemis II mission is basically the first mission opening the door to a new era of human exploration of the solar system. And in that era, we will see European astronauts going to the moon, just like our Americans and Canadian colleagues. They will be flying on Artemis 4 and 5, for which the service module are currently in integration here in the hall next to us. To conclude my speech, I would like to thank Christina, Jeremy, Victor, and Reid for flying a vehicle powered by the European Space Agency. And as a symbol of this cooperation, I would give Reid a few patches of the ESA Artemis, of the ESM2 vehicle for them as a symbol of the successful cooperation that we will have to go back to the moon together. So, Reid, welcome.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome. On behalf of myself, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy, first we just want to thank the Airbus team, the ESA team, and the people of Bremen. For the four of us, it's not our first time to Germany, but it is our first time, well, at least it's my first time here. And it's been really magnificent to get to walk around the plant, to meet the young men and women who have their hands, their fingerprints all over the European Service Module that will power us to the moon on the European Service Module number 2, and then this morning to get to see 3, 4, 5, and the start of 6, which will power our friends, 3 ESA astronauts, another Canadian astronaut, and still more international partners out around the moon and onto the surface of the moon. There's a lot of pride here, and it's very deserving. You know, Mark, when you opened, you said one of Victor's absolute favorite proverbs that he tells us all the time, which is, if you want to go fast, you go alone, and if you want to go far, you go together. And I couldn't help, but I glance over at this wall over here, and there's just 4-image mosaic. And you can see the Columbus module of the International Space Station, where myself, Victor, and Christina spent a lot of time, especially Christina, with an entire year up there. And then the European cargo vehicle, which I was on board with German astronaut Alexander Gerst when the 5th example of that came and docked to the space station, and just how enormous that vehicle was, how much cargo that vehicle brought to us, and how much capability it brought to the space station and the International Space Station. And then to end there with Orion and to see the European Service Module and the iconic selfie stick solar arrays there that are going to keep us safe as we go out around the moon and come back. It really makes me very happy. We hear a lot the last few days about the 4-party team, NASA, ESA, and Lockheed Martin and Airbus, and to get to see all these people working together to create something great for all of humanity, it really warms the heart. And as we look at international cooperation, it is not lost on us that just yesterday, Germany became the 29th country to sign the Artemis Accords, which we're very proud to have Germany on board as we try to put together a truly global team for deep space exploration for the safe, sustainable use of not just the moon, but the entire solar system. And then there's a little clause in the Artemis Accords that I think we most appreciate, which is, if we get in trouble while we're out there, people will come and help rescue us, regardless of what nation they're from, and we really appreciate that. So in closing, I know we want to hear from the crew, and we want to hear the press questions, because they're always enjoyable for us. But just from our hearts, the deepest thank you to the people of Bremen, to the people of Airbus, to the people of ESA. We really appreciate the work that's going on out here.
All right. So many thanks for the interesting insights, and Reid, thank you very much for making that summary of the ESA and Airbus contribution to NASA's exploration mission. If the customer and you use the hardware is doing that, I think we cannot get a better compliment for this. All right, now I want to open the Q&A session with questions here from the attendees in the room. Please, once you ask a question, please state your name and publication, and it would be great if you can name whom you want to direct your question. Yeah, please use the mics and the floor is open, please.
Yes, my name is Kai, I'm from German television ZDF, and I would like to pose a question to Philip or to Howard, whoever may answer the question. Philip, you just said a few minutes ago that so far the stages were flawless. So what are the next steps we can expect? Are there any delays? Can you just give us an idea what the next steps will be, what the dates are? And one question to the astronauts, maybe to Reid or Victor or to Christina or Jeremy, whoever would like to answer. You just said you were impressed by the people that left their fingerprints on the space shuttle. Were there any personal meetings the last few hours, maybe yesterday, you would like to let us know of?
So, if I understood well, you would like to know what are the next steps for the various Orions. So I will talk about the ESM, and then I will pass the mic to Howard for the Artemis mission. So in terms of ESMs, as Mark said, the ESM2 is already in Kennedy in preparation. It's been assembled with the crew module. Artemis II is still here in Bremen, under integration, is finalizing integration, and delivery is expected towards the end of this year. Then will very quickly ESM4 delivery will follow in the year 2024, and Artemis V in the year 2025. This is the plan at the moment.
Yeah, specifically on Artemis II, we've already wrapped up all the final work on the service module and also on the crew module. So we're a few weeks from stacking the crew module and the service module together to make one spacecraft. And of course, we are also doing concurrent work at Kennedy Space Center. We have the Artemis III crew module and the Artemis IV crew module that we're working on as well. Just like here, the European service module for 3, 4, and 5, and the Starter 6 is also here. So a lot of concurrent work going on, but from an Artemis II perspective, we're going to try to get to stacking as soon as we can, and of course, still trying to do our best to target for late next year for our launch, if all goes well.
All right. The next question, please. Oh.
We all have stories we could share, and thank you for that. Regarding the human part of what we've been able to see here at Airbus, it was amazing yesterday to meet with technical teams. We had wonderful one-on-one meetings with the specific teams doing the propulsion systems, the systems engineering, the verification of the whole design. We had an amazing entire group meeting about how we handle risk and how we can make sure that we are addressing every single person's concerns, that every person who has something on the table to contribute regarding safety is always heard. And it was really great to hear all 4 different teams' approaches to that, and to recognize that there is dedication there to making sure that this mission is successful and that the crewed aspect of it is really taken into account. I think that there was something said earlier about how our presence here makes you all feel like you're part of the Artemis family. We met people all day yesterday who have been working on this mission far longer than we have, in some cases longer than I've ever even been an astronaut. And my real impression here is thank you for welcoming us into your Artemis family and for welcoming us into this Orion, which is going to be our home. And you truly make it feel like it is a shared home.
All right, thanks a lot. And sorry, Christina, to switching into my mother tongue and saying Koch while introducing you. I'm sorry. Okay, do we have further questions? Please, go ahead.
Hey, Adrian from NSF. Question to the Artemis II crew. When did you learn about being assigned to this mission? And follow-up question, since this is a flyby mission to the moon, was there also indication given to you that you might be on a further touchdown mission down the line for the Artemis program?
Yeah.
So Jeremy found out well in advance of all of us, but we found out about a month before the public announcement. I guess if I let the cat out of the bag, that was a pretty interesting day for all of us. But we knew about a month prior, and we have a lot of work to do to make this mission successful. And this is one really important step, but on a really long journey of getting humans to sustainably and responsibly around the moon, but also eventually onto Mars. And so our focus is Artemis II, and that was it. There's no talk about Artemis III other than this has to be a success to open the door to Artemis III.
Any further comments? Okay. Good, we are good. Do we have a next question? Yes? Nadine? Oh, sorry. No. We have the first question in the back, and then we come to you. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Spangenberger, ARD, First German Television. Last night, Germany subscribed the Artemis Accords. Germany is not the first country, so to say. How important is it that Germany is now part of this Artemis Accords family?
Philip, can you answer? Oh.
Yes. So the Artemis Accord are accords on how to use outer space beyond low Earth orbit. So it has the same name as the Artemis mission, but strictly speaking, it's not necessarily related. So there is a bit of, I guess it was intentional to have the same name, because this is what the Artemis mission are about, is to go in space. But these are two, let's say, separate things in terms of their implementation. There are many countries who are part of the Artemis Accord, which are not part of the Orion program nor the Artemis mission. But of course, they will be welcome to join the Artemis program so that we all go together and make sustainable use of our solar system. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think from a NASA perspective, it's very important. It represents, what Reid talked about, peaceful, cooperative exploration and a shared value of what we want to do as humanity across the solar system. And bringing on a very important country like Germany and signing those accords certainly represents their commitment to the Artemis Accords, and for us as one bigger humanity family, as I call it, representing a vision and what we want to do together going forward.
Okay, thank you. Now, your turn.
Thank you. Simon Rosé from Radio France International. Thank you all. A question for the crew. Are there any key differences in your training between a moon mission and a low Earth orbit one? And actually, what will you do on board Orion? When will you be there? Is it a technical engineering mission, or will you do science as well?
Well, there are a lot of differences in these moon missions going forward. It's interesting to think about Artemis II and then the follow-on mission. So the way we look at Artemis II is just, this is simply a stepping stone towards returning humans to the surface of the moon, but even bigger than that, onto Mars. And so in the example of our flight, a lot of our training is about testing the vehicle, really spending time with the team, doing things like we've done the last couple of days, where we're learning from the experts, we're learning together, we're part of the testing process. And then our mission is explicitly designed to sort of have a safe path for us to stress this vehicle such that if we do have an issue, we can still come home alive. And so when you think about it, we'll leave Earth, we'll go around Earth once, it'll take about 90 minutes, and then we're going to spend a day going around Earth again on a really highly elliptical orbit. That gives us 24 hours to stress the vehicle, make sure it's ready to go all the way to the moon. And then assuming it is, then we'll do the translunar injection. But that is the last real big burn we'll do. That'll be enough to take us around the moon and bring us back. And so during that 8-day mission after that, we can intentionally stress the vehicle, take it to some of the corners of the envelope, and we can still come home safely if we have an issue. And that will give us the confidence in future missions to put crews into lunar orbit, to take them down to the surface. So it is very different. Every mission is going to be different. Christina and I were just in northern Canada last week learning geology. So even though we're not going to walk on the moon, this crew, we are starting to look at the geology training that will be required. So we're paving the path for the future crews. And also in educating ourselves on why going back to the moon is so important from a science point of view, and that sort of perspective that the moon still holds many answers for us to understand our solar system. In fact, the Apollo missions, they answered a lot of things, but what they really did was create more questions. And now we have a lot more. Now we know what to look for when we go back, and some of those little secrets we're trying to unlock. So it's a very exciting time, and what you're going to see is every mission is going to take us further and further and further. And it's going to put a lot of pressure on this global team to do some extraordinary things. I should add one more thing that's really important for us to remember is that the International Space Station is very key in enabling us to go back to the moon. So the work we're doing on the space station now that we've done and what we'll use it for in the future is part of enabling the aspects for us to go back to the surface of the moon and onto Mars. So it all ties together.
Thank you. Further question, please.
Hi, I'm Tony from the German channel Mondgeflüstert, what means moon whispering in English. And this question goes to Reid, Victor, or Christina. What do you think will be the biggest difference for you compared to your LEO or ISS missions?
I'd actually love to hear from Victor and Christina after, but I think we were just sitting around last night, Victor and I, at the end of the long day, and we were reflecting on Victor and I have both spent 6 months in space, and Christina, you spent almost an entire year in space. And how different this will be, 9.2 days, and how different it will feel, and just understanding that this will be a very packed mission in 9 days, but as a human on board this vehicle, we absolutely need to make room for us to experience this journey, to soak in every moment that we can, to get our work done, but also to be humans, to look out the window, to watch our Earth fade away and watch the moon come into view, and then the reverse of that as we come home. So I think we will need to think intentionally about how to spend 9 days, because it's not that long, and there's a lot of things that we're going to need to absorb in this mission.
Just a short addition. That's, first of all, beautifully said, and yeah, truth. But it's an interesting thought that I spent more weekend days off on this space station than we'll have on this total mission. So that the duration, I think, is the biggest difference, and just that means a lot of things. But the duration is the basic difference for me.
There are a lot of things that I think about with that question, and one of them is the idea that people that look like our crew as a whole have not laid eyes on the moon from the perspective that we will have ever. And people that look like us have never looked back at the Earth as a complete sphere in the window, ever. And that does mean something to me. When I was on board the space station, I had the honor of doing the first spacewalk, which was just done by women. And the reason that's significant to me, and the reason that there's a difference with going to the moon now with a group of people that represents all humanity, because we chose to explore for all and by all, is that children, when I grew up, I knew it was possible to go to space as a woman. I knew astronauts, women were astronauts. But what I hope is that the children of this generation know that teams of women can go to space together, and that teams of people of color can go to space together. And that is, to me, what's different about this mission.
Thank you. Interesting insights. Wow. Further questions, please. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Anne. I'm hosting Anne's Nerd Night on social media, and I also have a question to the crew. Are you nervous about going so far away from Earth? And if so, how did you deal with nervousness?
Well, you can't be nervous for a year and a half or 2 years or however long we are in this training flow for. So no, I'm not nervous. I know there'll be moments that I am nervous, probably saying goodbye to my family the day before launch. But from working with these people and some of the operational things we've done, I know that in the moment we won't be nervous. We'll be focused on the task at hand. But I'll tell you that coming to places like this and seeing the hardware and meeting the people provides a lot of confidence. And every time we do this and we go, that confidence level builds. And it's not just the engineering. It's obvious to us that the engineering is of very high quality, but we know risks will still creep in. But it's the people, like the way they approach it, the way they talk to us, the way they are constantly looking for errors and being really open and honest about the things that they're worried about. And that, nobody's telling us that it's all perfect and there's no risk. They're telling us these are the things we're working on, we're digging in further, these are the tests we're asking ourselves or that we're adding to the program to try and make this safer. Adds a lot of confidence.
Okay, here's a question.
Hi, Adrian from NSF again. Jeremy, you briefly talked about the training the next 1 to 2 years. What are specific cornerstones of this training going forward to prepare for this mission, and are there special steps you look forward to, especially in this training program?
One of the things that's most exciting and interesting to me is the testing aspects of our training, because in the space station flow now, we have a training flow, we have an expected path that you follow as an astronaut to get ready to go to space station. But for Artemis, this does not exist yet. We are co-creating it right now with the teams, the huge team that we have, the international team that puts together training. We're co-creating that. And some of it we don't know exactly what we will need. And so we just We spend time going and working with the experts. We spend time helping them test their systems. I think that's really fascinating. For me, it's a huge opportunity as a human to be part of that and to really see how these teams work and prepare something new, to do something for the first time. That's really fun and exciting.
There's a further question.
Süddeutsche Zeitung. I have a question perhaps for Mark Steckling, Howard, you, and one of the astronauts. We all remember Apollo 13. Did you ever had a special view on this accident? And what does it make with you?
Thank you for the question. It's not the usual questions we are receiving. I can only remember from Apollo 13, failure is not an option. Let's say what we are working on, I think what is special in those spacecrafts that we are building here in Bremen, we are building those spacecrafts where humans are flying on. And this is, let's say, this is a mindset issue in terms of how people are trained in order to do their work. It is a quality issue, and of course quality always comes first, but here it certainly has a special meaning. And I think what Apollo 13 learned us is nothing is impossible, so never give up. I personally have learned a lot from Apollo 13, but from a private life, I think it does not mean so much, let's say, for the professional one. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say that not so much just Apollo 13, but in general, we learn a lot from the missions we fly, and we implement the things that I think will help us hopefully address those things that we encounter, issues, what we call unknown unknowns. And on the Orion spacecraft, not only do we work a lot on redundancy and dissimilar capability, but we also look at manual intervention, access for the crew to understand exactly what the spacecraft's going and doing and what issues that is happening with a subsystem. So we provide a lot of those kind of scenarios as we build and design the spacecraft, and certainly at the very beginning of our design, we thought about a lot of the lessons that we've learned from not only the Apollo days, but from the space shuttle and of course space station. And that build-up and that mindset is very important for our engineering design. And then the other thing is the culture. I think Christina or somebody else on the crew said it very importantly yesterday and every day. We talk very openly about the issues. We talk about scenarios that we might encounter, risk areas, how do we address those risks, what do we have from a spacecraft perspective. And so when you have that conversation and when you engage all the people that are working on the spacecraft at every level, it's really important to bring that out and then address those. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we've done as we've evolved in human space exploration, is allow us to not only learn from the past on spacecraft design, but also engage the people that are really critical to every area and allow that conversation happen and allow us to really look at those things and address them where we can.
That's very heartwarming to hear. I like hearing all of that, Howard and Mark. I think Jeremy will probably add something to the end. Apollo 13 is just magnificent. I was not born until 1975, so I have to relate it all through the Well Done movie with Tom Hanks, but it's one of my absolute favorites. But when we train for this mission, almost all of our training will be done in conjunction with our ground teams and mission control. We know Airbus will be in our engineering room when we're flying in Houston, and that is really fantastic to know we'll have that support. But Howard has tried to design a vehicle, his team has tried to design a vehicle that we know all the failure modes. There's so much redundancy in this vehicle. We just saw all the redundancy on the European Service Module, why some things are built on one side and then mirrored on another side. We look at all the valves and how their redundancy is built. But at the end of the day, something can go wrong that you don't expect, and that's when human ingenuity starts to creep its way in, and we may have to solve problems that haven't been thought of, and we will work with the ground teams and we will get that done. One neat aspect of Artemis II, we know from Artemis I, this vehicle's capable. It spent nearly a month flying around the lunar environment completely autonomously, just with ground teams operating, no crew on board. So one of the neat aspects of Artemis II is we are going to do absolutely everything we can manually. We're going to manually control the environmental controls. We're going to manually orient us. Well, it's good that Howard's hearing this now so that he's all prepared. And that's true. They did say this is on the record to begin this press conference. We're going to do manual orientation. We're going to do manual burn calculations. We're going to do manual proxops demonstration to look at the rendezvous and docking capabilities of this vehicle for Artemis III. And honestly, if you break it all down, the only reason we're doing all that is to account for Apollo 13-like failures. Because if the vehicle's designed properly with the redundancy, we should really never have to do a thing except enjoy the view. Jeremy?
I just love this question. I just wanted to add something because I was giving a talk at my son's graduation recently, and I used this story of Apollo 13, and I only know it secondhand as well, but I find it very inspirational. When you sit in mission control typically and something goes wrong, you know, we have a little mantra we use. It's failure, impact, workaround. So tell me what's wrong with the vehicle, tell me what the impact is, and then tell me how you plan to solve it or what you need to move forward. So we're always trying to create a solution. But in Apollo 13, it gets really bad. And it gets to the point where there's kind of an iconic scene there where the flight director says, he stops everybody, because everybody's got a failure to report. And he stops everybody and he says, okay, tell me what we got left on the spacecraft that's good. He flips the problem on its head because it just doesn't fit the current model that we use day to day. We have to create a new solution. And I love this because it points to what we have going on in the world right now and why this collaboration, this international collaboration is so important. It's really easy for us in the world, this is what I was explaining to these youth, is it's really easy for us in the world to point out all the failures. But what we have to do once in a while is flip the problem on its head and figure out what do we have left that's good. And I would propose to you this team, this international team, what we're working on is something that is good and something that is setting an extraordinary example for humanity to go ahead and solve some of the big problems that face us today.
Very good. Interesting. Do we have further questions? First here and then there. Here.
Sturm, KS Press, to the crew and maybe also to Howard, from a cultural perspective, how important is it for you to be now here over in Europe, and what is the added value of the intercultural aspect of such a program? What does it give additionally?
You know, one thing that struck me, it was alluded to earlier, is that we are meeting the people that will physically be in what's called the back rooms of mission control during our mission. And these are the people that are going to be doing those Apollo 13 moments if we need them. They're going to be the people that know which parts of the CO2 system to duct tape together. And they know their vehicle so intimately. We met them today, or this week. We shook their hands. And to me, that cross-cultural work, that human interaction is so important. Another human interaction moment that's so important is we were just in the clean rooms, and we met the people that are doing every little piece of tape, every connection, every mechanical and electrical connector. They're taping, they're fastening, and we learned what they call our vehicle. They call the crew module that we're going to be in the penthouse, because to them, it's just the thing that sits on top of their baby. And honestly, knowing that's what you all in this European family call the vehicle, that is special to me. We learned that they say they have to do space yoga sometimes just to get into the little areas where they have to work on. Those human connections are so important, because now when people ask us, are you nervous about this flight? And we say things like, we implicitly trust the engineers and the technicians that build this vehicle. Now we've met them. We've seen their work. We've seen how well they do it and how dedicated they are. And that is what matters about this cross-cultural work. When I think about the service module night right now, or in the future, I will see the labels in different languages that they are, because it's Germans and Italians and French people and every nation in Europe that have worked on this vehicle, and their stamp is on it. And that diversity of thought that goes into how we solve these problems is why we are successful.
It's always... It's hard to speak after any member of this crew. I absolutely love listening to that. Christina, it was perfect. The only thing I want to add, and why, to me personally, it's important that we're going as a team, and I want this team to be as broad as possible. That's why I love that Germany's 29 in the Artemis Accords, and I can't wait until the 50th nation signs up. You know, I want this to be for everyone. On a personal level, though, when I rode a Russian Soyuz to low Earth orbit to dock 6 hours later to the International Space Station, I had spent a lifetime looking at pictures of the Earth and videos of the Earth. And I was somewhat terrified when I would get to space that it would look like those pictures. And I can tell you for certain, it is far more beautiful than any photograph could ever give it justice. The feeling of weightlessness, the feeling of riding in this vehicle, 3 human beings from planet Earth, totally alone orbiting our planet, looking out at the black of space. My first instinct was not, I'm here. My first instinct was, I want my brother to see this, I want my parents to see this, I want my family to see it, I want every human being to get to see it from this vantage point. So while we're here in Bremen, Europe is along with us, with the US. Jeremy is along, Canada is along with us. We will have Japan, we'll have the United Arab Emirates, we will have an entire global coalition going to explore not just the moon, not just Mars, but as we fan out into the solar system. And I think that is not something one nation can accomplish. That is something our planet has to accomplish.
I didn't know it was called the penthouse. Now I wonder if we've got too much capability and the luxury in the crew module. So from an engineering perspective, we'll look at it again. But certainly, you know, I think when I think about our collaboration over these many years together with the European team, you know, I think about innovation, ingenuity, and detailed design and the quality associated with it. You know, when we gather a tremendous amount of talent together, we're going to find a lot of creative solutions together. And like I said, you know, it's one spacecraft. It has to operate together, and we've solved a lot of problems over the last few years. Challenging problems together and bringing the team together, the best minds that we have across the world. And that's what makes it very exciting for me. And then when we, when we flew the mission, you know, the room in the back room where we call the mission evaluation room, where the engineering team, the design team sits to support the mission of the flight control team, you know, it was just engineers. You didn't know if the person was Italian, American, German. You know, it was just tremendous that the team worked together. And that's what I envisioned. That's what I see. It was just the color of people. Didn't matter. The country did not matter. We had one purpose, to have a successful mission. And that's what you're going to see on Artemis II. That's what we're looking forward to as we go forward. And all these missions, they're going to get more challenging and very important. And going forward, we're going to have a great team that has worked together, a well-oiled machine. And truly looking forward to those types of engagements in the future.
Yeah, we are really getting more insights about Orion. Thanks a lot. We have here the next question. First, the lady. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Emily Martin from Ciel's Best Friends. Question from the crew. What will be your exact role up there? I mean, of course, you're a commander, pilot, mission specialist, but what does it mean up there? Who's going to do the maneuvers, for instance, the docking simulation, and who's going to do the picture of the Earthrise, for instance?
Let's see, Howard has already said he's going to use a solar array to take a picture of all 4 of us at the window, so that'll be something unique that we haven't seen before. But because this is a first flight of a vehicle, it is critically important to our crew that everyone operates this vehicle completely. You will get different insights, whether I'm at the controls or Victor or Christina or Jeremy. And then it's important that we take all of our experiences back and help train the Artemis 3, 4, 5, 6 crews on how to operate this vehicle and how it operates. Because those next crews, flying the Orion is going to be the most minimal part of their mission. So the thing that is our entire mission will now become the transportation vehicle, the minimal part of their mission. So we have got to go up there and get as much experience on this vehicle as we can and then share that with our colleagues. I think that's probably best.
Okay, I think first the question in the back, and then we come to you.
I just want to come back to the Apollo mission. We had Apollo 9 and 10, where NASA tested the lunar lander, Snoopy, and this was a very important testing for the successful landing of Apollo 11. Now, when I look at the Artemis missions, 1, 2, 3, there's no lunar lander involved. Maybe the lunar lander doesn't even exist today. So how do you plan that? The first rendezvous between the lander and Orion will be the landing on the moon?
Let's see, I think I understand your question. We are building landers. We have partners that are building landers. The first lander is SpaceX. The second is Blue Origin, if you're asking that. And they have a development program. I'm, of course, not very familiar or as familiar with what they're doing in terms of details. There's a human landing systems program as part of the Artemis campaign that's responsible for working with SpaceX and Blue Origin. Certainly, we will need a lander to go down to the surface of the moon. There will be the same rigorous testing that we have done on Orion to make sure that the lander is safe for the crew to go forward with. On Artemis II, we are going to dock directly with the SpaceX lander, and then we will transfer some of the crew and go down to the surface. And for future missions, we're actually going to the Gateway space station. They'll be orbiting around the lunar orbit, and the crew will get into the Gateway, and there'll be a lander waiting for them. And then they will depart from the Gateway once they're ready to the surface, of course, bring them back, and then transfer them into the Orion spacecraft to return home.
Okay, now it's your turn.
1, 2, thank you very much. My name is Thorsten from social media Orbital Plausch, and that's a question for the crew. If I understand correctly, Artemis II is a great opportunity to stress the vehicle to the limits. So there's a different test campaigns, I guess. What is for you personal, the interesting, or the most interesting test that you will be participate in, and you're, yeah, maybe nervous or happy to do this?
Well, you know, if you ask me this again in an hour, I might tell you something different. There's so many unique aspects of this because it's the first time we're going to fly it. Every day will be the first time we've done that for 9 days, 10 days. But something that we haven't talked much about, the handling qualities test is going to be great, whoever flies that. But one of the primary things that we have to do is just survive. We have to eat, sleep, and you know, use the bathroom for 10 days. And the system has to be able to support that. And so since this will be the first time humans have flown it, those consumables, the oxygen, the waste management system, eating and getting rid of the trash and finding ways to do that, that are hygienic and comfortable for us is a very important part. Exercising, you know, you've seen it's not a very big spacecraft. When Jeremy goes to exercise, that's the only thing that's going to happen in the vehicle. And so, but we have to live through that. And so just getting through the daily chores is going to be a really important part that I'm really excited about.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Mr. Lorenzen.
Dirk Lorenzen, Deutschlandfunk, German Public Radio. A follow-up to Howard Hu. When do you expect to see the first landing on the moon?
Wow, that's another tough question. I just built the Orion spacecraft. But I think this is getting recorded. So we have a process. Obviously, we want to fly successfully Artemis II. We're targeting certain dates. So we're trying to target a date for Artemis III once we feel like we've got a confident path for Artemis II. So certainly there's a planned set of dates out there. But the most important thing is building the spacecraft of right now, which is Artemis II, getting to the Artemis II mission. And then as we go along that path, we will start publishing more dates. It's obviously also very dependent on the lander. And I don't obviously know their schedules. So that'll be also another driver. So we have to do our part on Orion to make sure we're on time for the mission. And the lander team will also do their part. And then we will see each other in space. Thank you.
Okay. So many thanks for your questions. Many thanks for the tremendous answers. Before we close the press briefing and starting the gaggle interviews with the astronauts at the viewing site next to the clean room, next to the Orion ESMs, and the interviews, the one-on-one interviews we will do here with our other experts, I have to say there's one more thing. We have heard about great news from America. It's a great day for Germany with signing a piece of paper. And here's a video message from the US, from tonight, from Washington, DC. And I think we can play the video, please.
Walter and I are here in Washington, where Walter has just signed the Artemis Accords. So welcome into the Artemis Accords family. And I want to thank the folks in Bremen. I've been there. I've seen your work product in the European Service Module. Thank you for what you do for our Artemis program. And a big shout out to our crew that is there with you. Go Artemis II.
Hello from Washington. As Bill just said, Germany now is part of the Artemis Accords family, and we are a proud member of this family because we are going together to the moon. And I'm sending also our greetings to the team in Bremen, which is actually finalizing the service module, a European product which supports the return to the moon of the humankind. And I send my best wishes to the first crew. Good luck, and we support you wherever we can.
Yeah, I would conclude it's a great match of events, so couldn't have had planned it better. So this is the end of the official press briefing and the live stream on our YouTube channel. Thank you for your interest, and I think now it's interview time. Thank you.